ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I've got... Oh, Grace, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning, Arlene.
And of course, this is our Monday morning where we bring you the first news of the week today at our ASEAN Daily. So to start off, I want to share something about what is happening right now on the MERS case. Apparently, South Korea reports 3 new MERS cases, while Thailand says that there's no MERS case. And recently in Malaysia, they say there's 1 MERS case in Johor.
Yes, and then, MERS case seemed like it was just within South Korea, but it looks like because people travel outside of South Korea and also from Middle East, the disease doesn't seem to be just a stay in South Korea only. It travels to Southeast Asia as well.
They're saying that South Koreans are everywhere in the world. You have to be scared of MERS now.
No, not only South Koreans, but also Middle Eastern people, because it's originated from that country area, regional as well. So it's better to be careful. Wherever you meet, you need to wash your hands properly, and then if can, wear a mask wherever you go.
So far, by the Health Minister Rajatanavin said that they can confirm that there's no new MERS patient in Bangkok. But at the same time, they are taking extra precaution because the virus itself is definitely spreading like wildfire outside of South Korea, although now cases are limited to a few countries in Southeast Asia. But at the same time, I think it's important for us to keep our hands clean and to make sure that we don't get too close to people on our daily contact, especially with in public. Nowadays, with the weather itself, which is a bit unpredictable, people get sick, and I think we need to get a bit extra precaution.
That's correct. And then it's better to be cautious with whoever you speak to, and then whatever you touch, because you never know what kind of a symptom or a disease you will get from outside, and you never know what kind of symptoms can be created from nowhere. So the South Korea is on alarm, the whole nation, but Southeast Asia, it looks like the cases are being seen from here or there, starting from Thailand and Malaysia, even though the Thailand government said that there is no case yet, but then there was a bit contradiction between the media and the government, so we never know which one is true yet.
Yeah, especially with a country climate like Thailand, you better get extra precaution. On the other hand, if you still want to keep in touch with people, you can always go on Twitter. And guess who has just posted his first tweet as president?
It's very interesting. It's our neighbor country for sure.
So President Jokowi has posted his first ever tweet since being elected president on his official Twitter account on Sunday, marking his 54th birthday. He's still young.
Oh, he's pretty considered young compared to other, I will say usual politicians out there. Yeah, and he posted his first tweet, and he said, "I'm thankful that I can share Sahu with my family, and happy fasting everybody." And then he says, "This is my first tweet as president."
Yeah, and he said it on his official Twitter account. How many politician or president or prime minister in Southeast Asia have a Twitter account? I know Lee Hsien Loong and Najib definitely had one, but that's all. I don't know South Korean president and.
In South Korea, tweet is not that famous. It's not as popular as the other countries, but they will use the other chat services such as Line and also KakaoTalk. So it is different system there.
But are they in touch with the younger generation to this kind of social media?
They have to. Otherwise
so they have their own account.
Otherwise they feel a bit behind of all this. Yeah, they have to be updated.
And Jokowi also included his signature at the end of his Twitter. How cute is that? Indicating that it was his personal his personal tweet, because sometimes politicians are too busy, they use someone else as to tweet on behalf of them, but this is real tweets from Jokowi. And apparently he has 2.89 million followers on Twitter.
Wow, that's really, really a lot just in a few days.
But it still hasn't beat Lady
followers.
Gaga. So, anyway, talking about what is happening in our neighboring country, another thing that I want to highlight is the volcanic eruption, or the volcano that will be erupt anytime soon. Two countries that are facing it. One is in Indonesia, another one is in the Philippines. Let's talk about the one that is in Indonesia. So farmers near Mt Sinabung find it hard to abandon their homes. So it seems like when Indonesia farmer Elfi Delimunti fled to safety last week as a volcano hurled hot ash and rocks across the sky, it marked the third time she was forced to abandon their homes recently. And because of that, they have to somehow evacuate their homes. And during the time itself when the volcano hurled hot ash and rocks, one of the villagers or farmers heard a loud booming sound and saw thick ash spewing out. And recalling the terrifying eruptions, which prompted her family to jump into a bus and onto a motorbike and rush to a temporary shelter.
It looks like not only those countries, but when it comes to natural disaster, we hear a lot of cases nowadays, starting from Malaysia to Indonesia to Philippines, and also at any other countries in Southeast Asia. And also that's probably because the media is bringing up all this awareness of the natural disaster. I think when it comes to all these incidents happen, it's very important to how you can react to all this natural disaster, and also the government's immediate action to this kind of incident is very important.
Maybe because they have been suffering. No, I won't say suffering, but the location of their homes are located in active volcano ring. They call it the Pacific Ring of Fire. So they are much more well prepared than, let's say, Malaysia during the Sabah quake. And in fact, 10,000 people are being evacuated from their homes this month after an increase in the activity of Mt Sinabung. So it hasn't really erupted yet. It's just spewing rocks and ashes. So there you go. That's what we are seeing right now happening in Indonesia.
But it looks like the volcano itself, it looks quite active, so it's better to be evacuated. For those who have not been evacuated from their homes, it looks like the eruption can be highly disruptive, so it's better to be careful.
And on the other hand, Philippines are also facing a similar situation. In fact, the Philippines has stockpiled food supplies in case of evacuation after a volcano emitted ash and smoke 6 times in recent weeks. And this is the Bulusan volcano. 390 kilometers southeast of Manila. This is according to the presidential spokesman Herminio Coloma. Besides preparing for emergency food packs, the authority are also closely watching the communities there.
And then, like it is mentioned before, it's not the case of only in the Malaysia or Indonesia. We hear the cases from Philippines, and I never know, we can hear from the Vietnam or also Cambodia, any other countries in Southeast Asia. So when it comes to volcano eruptions, earthquake, or any other natural disaster, it's better to be warned beforehand, just like how Japanese government have the right system to inform those people. So like the news or media agency do report, it's better to be alert and also be aware of all these incidents.
It's definitely important to be aware. For example, Mount Bulusan, its last destructive eruption was actually just as recent as February 2011, eventually forcing hundreds of villagers to evacuate. And there were no reports of casualty, of course, because the government were very quick in ensuring that all the communities staying nearby to evacuate. I think there's a trend nowadays. If you see, Indonesia is on alert, the Philippines is on alert, and a few tremors happened at Sabah recently. I think something is brewing. Maybe I won't say it's climate change as per se, but I would say that we need to take a more precaution on the weather. Early this year or late last year. There were a huge flood, not just in Kelantan but also in many parts in Sabah, in the Borneo Islands, as well as in Jakarta. I think the weather has become so intense lately that we need to understand why this is happening.
Perhaps we were not aware of these incidents not as often as before. Maybe it was not reported from the oldest or the department that the people were not really educated in a right sense. For example, even though it was just a minor incident, for example, earthquake of 2.3 magnitude or 3.5 magnitude, it is still significant to be reported to people to aware and also to be warned to avoid the future incident and the future sort of disruption. But then it was not reported, especially in Malaysia. In the case of the what happened to Mountain Kinabalu, there are a lot of history that was already recorded. There were a few incidents that happened, but because it was not reported properly, the people were not aware, and thus a lot of people were affected.
Anyway, we'll take one short break. When we return, we will continue with our political and current issue news.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hello, this is Grace.
You're back again with us on ASEAN Daily. So to start off our political and current issue news, just a bit of message from Jose Ramos-Horta. Horta. If you don't know him, he was actually quite prominent in the formation of Timor-Leste. In fact, he was also the former president of Timor-Leste, which is a country that is trying to beat itself in ASEAN. And he has been very critical towards Myanmar, partly because he has been fighting a really bloodied war in the past with the Indonesia a decade and a half ago. And because of that, he won the Nobel Peace Laureate. And he has been critical of the Myanmar. So he has been critical of Myanmar because of he definitely can understand the sufferings of the Rohingya. And he said that more needs to be done to address the security and political challenges in Myanmar. And I couldn't agree more.
Well, he has his point there, and also he mentioned about the Moro Islamic Liberation Front as well. He had a symbolic ceremony to decommission its weapons and combatants. So a lot of concerns have been flooding to Southeast Asia, and he also mentioned that going back to Rohingya's issues, he thinks that Myanmar can take clues from Indonesia's experiences on how to manage situation in multi-ethnic and multicultural society. He really hopes that the president will continue with his very best effort together with Aung San Suu Kyi, and also the international community should not exert too much pressure on the president and others. They're managing a very difficult, complex situation.
And I totally agree with him. Being a president of a country or prime minister in the case of Malaysia is not easy. You have to tame so many fringes. But in the case of Myanmar, it's pretty unique because they are facing a lot of challenges by the international communities. Recently, he lauded the peace process in the Philippines between the government and the Muslim rebels, especially the Moro Islamic Liberation Front recently held a symbolic ceremony to decommission its weapons and combatants. And so, in a way, he's proud of what is happening in the Philippines, but in Myanmar, he feels that a lot of things needs to be addressed. And he thinks that sharing diverse experiences with each other candidly, honestly, would be the first important step. And they can learn useful lessons from these experiences so that they can coordinate future actions together. This is according to another person, Yasushi Akashi, former UN Under-Secretary General. And I totally agree with him because when it comes to ASEAN community, nothing says ASEAN community if leaders can work together to address key political and economic challenges in this region.
At the same time, this whole political process of the making deal is to be implemented this year. However, with the regular government for Bangsa Moro elected next May, his concern is the normalization process will take up to 5 years, and also biggest challenge is to rebuild the 4 decades of devastation caused by the fighting in southern Mindanao. So a lot of issues and the concerns have been expressed. So it is also up to hold the ASEAN as a whole community to come up with a proper mechanism to resolve all these issues.
And on the other hand, when we talk about Aung San Suu Kyi, definitely she's trying her best. She has been criticized internationally for her lack of effort to voice out on the issue regarding on Rohingya. But at the same time, she's actually eyeing her focus more towards the election. And recently, she has been vowing transparency with candidates' assets disclosure. Just 2 days ago, she said that every member of her National League for Democracy, or short, infamously being called NLD, who wishes to contest in Burma's upcoming general election, will have to declare their assets as the party seeks to exercise transparency in the highly anticipated vote, which will be happening end of this year.
And also at the same time, even though a lot of people have been questioning why she has been so silent regarding the Rohingyas issues, however, like it is mentioned before, perhaps she is more focusing on the election, and then she sees there are perhaps more priorities than all these current issues that's been going on. And in fact, she said NLD candidates would need to submit their movable and immovable assets as well as those of their spouses and similar wealth that might be under their children's names. And it's also regarding all those elections, and it shows that her transparency and also the informative when it comes to election, that's why she is focusing, and she wants to practice again the democracy or democratic system in the country.
So the election, which will be happening in early November, is actually the biggest since the last time they had an election, which was probably a decade ago, or more. I think it was in the 90s if I think back about it. But this will be an ultimate show of democracy for Myanmar. So I think she's looking at making key changes through the voting or the polling station. So she's not making that much noise right now. Even key issue like the Rohingya, she has been very, very silent about it. But the NLD is likely to face the stiffest competition from the ruling Union Solidarity and Development Party, USDP, as well as parties representing the interests of ethnic minorities in the region. On the other hand, when you talk about political party, of course, you can't help but thinking about Malaysia.
Right.
The death of Pakatan Rakyat means that the beginning of a new, or the rebirth of new parties or new membership in the other parties. And what we are seeing right now, more and more ex-PATH youth are joining DAP. This is a very unique trend.
Well, it is, and it also can be seen that the youth are voicing out, and also they want to be active when it comes to political movement in the country. And not only that, the very well-known the poetic Asamat Said, who also joined the DAP, which was just last week, and he also did voice out and putting a lot of expectation in the political movement as well.
And because of that, what we are seeing right now, DAP is also changing its branding. Used to be a very Chinese and sometimes people say chauvinistic party, but nowadays it seems to be quite Malay friendly. You see former Johor Pass youth member Sheikh Omar Ali now officially a DAP member, Sheikh and also Nora Zima Muhammad Noor, a Reformasi activist, also handed his membership form to DAP Supremo Lim Kit Siang. Of course, you explained earlier A. Samad Said, and another person called another person from past youth also joined DAP. And for them it's really comfortable for them to be part of DAP, because they are seeing that DAP has changed their image to be much more inclusive compared to probably past.
And then hopefully DAP can develop from there without having any issues within the party itself. If they are going to this direction, they should really stay this direction and build up a relationship perhaps between the PAS and the DAP itself. And like we mentioned earlier, a lot of youth are also voicing out and perhaps joining the political party, which is also perhaps the former Johor Pass youth member of also officially a DAP member, and with that they can also initiate and also motivate really good positive movement in the nation, and also starting from the party.
So we'll take another short break. When we return, we will continue with the economic news and also socio-cultural.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hello, this is Grace.
And of course, you are with us again right now on our economic and business news. So, do you know that renewable resources account for half of ASEAN electricity? That means it's a good news, right? I mean, they are not burning coal that much to produce electricity, but they are using things like hydropower electricity to produce electricity.
That's correct. And in fact, quite many companies have been established regarding this renewable energy, and it's very good news to ASEAN as overall, and perhaps it can set an example to other countries when it comes to renewable energy, because it is very necessary with all this climate change and a lot of natural sort of a lack of resources are happening right now. This idea of having renewable energy is very, very important.
It's really important. In fact, for example, in Malaysia, we are focusing on solar power. That's part of the government's plan to focus more on renewable energy. But I can't help but to see that ASEAN Economics has been adding a generation capacity using coal power, though Indonesian President Jokowi Dodo has made some high-profile environmental commitments. He plans to increase the use of coal power to overcome the country's power shortage. So in a way, it's still not there yet if we are looking at this fact. The fact that we are still relying a lot on coal, but we are transiting slowly and surely towards other renewable energy that doesn't rely on coal.
Oh, well, like you said, that perhaps the progress and the transition may be slow, but then it looks like we already have started from somewhere. So hopefully we can continue with this movement of having this renewable energy. And at the same time, all the nations in the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, have been rapidly growing their own shares as well. So, which is quite a good news at the same time, and also all this new administration discontinued this previous skeptical stance on the climate change. So all this in Europe and also United States progress towards this may look a bit slow, and especially Europeans, all this progress is more representative of OECD trends exhibiting the increase of 9% points in the renewable share of electric generation between the year 2002 and 2012.
And what we are seeing right now is we can definitely follow the path of our neighboring country, Singapore, because it is the only ASEAN state with declining per capita emissions likely derived from shifts in the economy towards services and cleaner manufacturing, which creates a more fundamental and powerful decarbonization of the economy than policy does. So you can go two ways. Either you can have an environmental policy that regulate the use of really I would say energy that would dirty the earth, or you can shift your economy focusing on economic productivity that won't rely too much on coal. That's another thing that we can think about, or that do not really rely on carbonization. On the other hand, talking about business, Vietnam is improving its business environment, surpassing ASEAN Level 6 average.
So in fact, the country has improved some criteria in the business environment. So it has been exceeding the average level in ASEAN 6, namely Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. So all these measures will be taken to improve the nation's business environment, accelerating the administrative procedure and ensuring that the transparency and also responsibility of a state administrative agency as well.
And what we are seeing right now is definitely Vietnam leaping really tremendously in terms of improving the business climate. The measure will be taken to improve the country's business climate, accelerating administrative procedures, ensuring transparency and responsibility of state administrative agencies, as well as reforming regulations on business conditions so that commodities exports and imports satisfy international rules. And in fact, what we are seeing right now, that in terms of protecting investor with the law of enterprises 2014, one of the index shows that Vietnam has improved to the 105 ranking and reached the average level of 52.1 in ASEAN 6.
And when it comes to Vietnam, the first thing that comes to my mind right now is the technology, because of as much as it still has the poor internet penetrations. When it comes to business sector, the technology or electronic devices business have been improving a lot. So perhaps that play the biggest role when it comes to perhaps the business sector in Vietnam, and also to improve the whole environment of the nation.
Of Vietnam, you mean?
Yeah.
And another thing about Vietnam that I can see the government is trying to smoothen things out. Besides, trying to improve more technological advancement for its economy. Also, we see that the government is trying to reduce as much as possible on red tapes, and this including smoother tax payment and social insurance. It has been improved in 27 places to reach the 121 position. However, the level is still far from the average ASEAN 6. It's still really hard in terms of the easing of doing business in Vietnam. On the other hand, talking about economy, besides Vietnam, we would like to highlight another country that is also facing a huge challenge, which is Indonesia.
Right.
Currently, what we are seeing right now is slowing economic growth. One of the biggest culprit that would affect is the Rupiah, will be weakened. In fact, it's already weakening at a 17-year low versus the dollar, and accelerating inflation have all fueled the concern of foreign investor pulling out of Indonesia.
It is very sort of quite sad and at the same time interesting to see this trend in Southeast Asia, because when it comes to currency level, still Thailand, the baht is ranked the highest. However, when it comes to Rupiah and even Ringgit, they're just the value is falling, and we don't know when it will stop falling.
Yeah.
Because the value of this the money itself with a lot of external and internal the issues that's been going on and also been affecting the value of the currency, it looks like it affects a lot economically, or also tells the foreign investors to pull out themselves from the country.
Mm-hmm. And what we are seeing right now is, of course, lesser funding for Indonesia infrastructure development. But at the same time, we are also seeing that whatever that is facing Indonesia right now, which is the weakening of Rupiah, is a similar trend across a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia, like you highlighted earlier. So in a sense, we can definitely see that it's a huge task for Jokowi to address this. But we are also seeing that the Bank of Indonesia forecasting the inflation will remain above 7% through the end of this year because of the El Nino weather patterns. It means that we can't help but to see the fall of Indonesia economy, things that they cannot help themselves either.
And perhaps the investors, they will need to keep demanding the higher yield, and also could readjust their positions as well, depending on the currency, the position as well, and at least going into the near future. And large supply pressures for investors will continue to exist going forward.
So let's move on to socio-cultural news. Before that, I want to ask you, how can we raise ASEAN integration?
Well, there are a lot of ways when it comes to
the awareness of it.
Yeah, awareness of it, and it can also start from the youth, or it can also start from the economic or business sectors. So apparently, the Rappler and also AIM, or the ASEAN Asian Institute of Management, they have been teaming up to raise this awareness on the ASEAN integrations.
They are the pioneer of international management education in Asia, and they hope that with this particular project, they can raise the awareness and the importance of AEC, and they hope to tap, into this project. Is called ASEAN 2015 project, and hope to publish articles, infographics, opinion pieces, and other materials to explain how ASEAN integration will affect the daily lives of those in the region, from students to entrepreneurs to tourists. That's very positive and something that I think we should look into it as well.
They are touching on a lot of articles and essays, and one of the agreements and also example is that the Rappler to publish the essays of this the writer called David Saisip. He's a mechanical engineer and also thinker who led the several influential trade organizations, including Council for Economic Development, ASEAN-Japan Economic Council, and Philippine National Committee for Economic Cooperation with Japan. So he did touch on the impact on the automobile industry, all these small business sectors that we can read about and we can know more about the ASEAN economic community.
I'm looking forward to what is happening on our neighboring country, the Philippines, and definitely it will increase the hyperconnectivity through today's technology, giving that those living in ASEAN having unprecedented power to shape their world or our world. So with integration in the horizon, the power is all the more critical, and I couldn't agree more with this statement. On the other hand, before we end the show, do you know last weekend was Father's Day?
Yeah, it was just also yesterday we celebrated.
Which is actually yesterday.
Yeah.
How did you usually celebrate Father's Day?
Where in Korea? Well, in Korea we don't have a Father's Day or Mother's Day. We have Parents' Day,
Oh,
which
that's
falls on
nice.
the 8th of May. So we celebrate the both Parents' Day rather than separating them. And only in certain countries they do celebrate Father's and Mother's Day. And it's perhaps when it comes to ASEAN, how do you say father in the different languages? So perhaps it's important to know.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know. So apparently, for you to be creative with your father, you can actually say in different words in different languages. Of course, we all know in Malaysia, Brunei, we call it as bapa. But in other countries, for example, in Indonesia, it's more common to call ayah. Even in Singapore, they call it as ayah. But guess what? They call it in Laos.
Laos, I don't know, what do they call that?
They call it as po, as in like
Right.
the noodle po.
Right.
But I guess in Laos it means something else, which is father.
Yes.
And in Cambodia, it's called as of puk.
That's cute.
So happy of Phuc Day.
Oh, right, it makes sense. Yeah.
And in Vietnam, it's called cha.
Mm.
Oh, that's really sweet, actually. Cha. And in Thailand, it's called kun por. And of course, in the Philippines, which I think it sounds something else, it's called ama.
Right.
I thought ama is supposed to be like more like mother.
Well, I guess it all depends, but there are lots of similarities when it comes to languages in Southeast Asia. Even to say father, although the spelling could be different, or even the pronunciation could be different, but somehow it's sort of that we are related when it comes to small vocabularies.
Mm-hmm. And one country that I miss out is Myanmar. It's called Pekin. I thought it's really cute to learn all these different languages in Southeast Asian language, and definitely something that we should encourage more, especially when we're talking about ASEAN integration. We need to learn more about our neighbor more than we should learn about, other regions. And that's all for our news today. Thanks for listening to us.
And also don't forget to visit us at our website durianasean.com and leave us your feedbacks on our social channels on the Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube and Instagram.
And of course, you can always listen to us live at durianasean.com or via your mobile on the go by downloading the TuneIn app and search for Durian ASEAN.